got out of the car, according to what you told law enforcement repeatedly, and went and checked the bodies, correct? Before you called 911, is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
You're saying you didn't say that to law enforcement?
I don't know what I said to law enforcement, Mr. Waters, but I can tell you this. When I pulled up and I saw Mags and Paw, I jumped out of that car. I know that I went back to my car and I called 911 as quickly as I could. That point in time, when I got on the phone, then is when I went to them and did the things that I did. So, what you're saying is not accurate.
You're saying that you didn't say very specifically to law enforcement that you went to them prior to calling 911?
When?
After you got out of the car, you told law enforcement repeatedly that you went over and checked the bodies before you called 911.
No, I don't. If I did say that, I don't believe that's accurate. Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Correct.
No, sir. That's not accurate. At least that's not what I remember.
That's not what you remember saying, or that's not what you say now happened?
No, that's not what I believe happened.
What jumps out at you most about that?
I think once again we're seeing, if I played the second half of that for you and didn't tell you anything about what happened before that, and I said, what happened 15 seconds before that? You'd probably say nothing. Everything seems to be going very smoothly. He goes from this uncontrollable, trying to control his emotions and crying, to this thing where he's talking like we're talking now. Everything looks normal. There almost is no transition between the sadness and then going back to what he's talking about. That is strange.
Let's make a list of stress indicators, because there are no indicators of deception, only stress that pile up, and we look for them. Mouth grooming. It means the mucous membranes in your mouth are drying out. When you're crying, that is not happening.
It's the most animated with his face and head we've seen so far.
He does that. He does what we call, in polygraphy, they talk about descending staircase breathing. Once you get to a point where you've been trying to control your breathing, you go, whoosh. He does that. His blink rate goes through the roof. As your eyes dry out from stress, your eyelids move more. So we see all those three things. He's adapting with the mic. And finally, he does something I call the chained elephant, as he rocks back and forth from one foot to the other, in this case, in a chair. All those are clusters. They all add together.
And I thought it was very interesting when he's on the stand. He doesn't just say, this is what happened. He goes, I believe, or I would have done this, or the data says. I mean, it's like he can't even speak for himself. He's trying to keep everything straight, and he just buffers everything. I thought it was interesting. At one point in that last clip, he's talking along, and all of a sudden he goes, when? When?
When?
And he looks right at the prosecutor. What was going on there? Because it looked like all of a sudden his animosity came out towards, he's just drilling right at that prosecutor.
Watch the prosecutor's body language. He's browbeating him, so there's some baggage between the two of them, clearly.
Yeah, Vinny, you were in the courtroom. What was his trial team doing while he was self-destructing like this on the witness stand?
Well, first, remember, it's always the defendant's decision whether or not to testify. My guess is from the beginning, they did not want this man to get up on the witness stand because they knew what could happen and what did, in fact, happen. They're picking moments here and there where they can jump in, but the way he was being questioned by prosecutors didn't give the defense any room to jump up and object about anything, because Creighton Waters picked a specific strategy for the cross-examination. It wasn't the Perry Mason, isn't it true, isn't it true, isn't it true? It wasn't that. It wasn't yes, no answers. He purposely asked him open-ended questions because he knew the more Alec Murdaugh spoke, the less credible he would be. And that is all playing out right now, as we can hear from the body language experts and the juror. Let the guy talk. This entire case was built upon the words of Alec Murdaugh. He paved his own road to the penitentiary.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.